Hi, I'm Adan Sprauer. This is Real Estate Today. Now, I'm just on my way out to a conference that's talking about Vancouver affordability, as well as what they expect that will happen over the next 10 years in reference to affordability in the city of Vancouver. Now, I wanted to make a quick video, kind of give you my thoughts on that. Why I think Vancouver is such an expensive place to live. There's many reasons why, but let's start with the quick facts here. Let's talk about Canada overall. Now, Canada overall, as much as it's a big country on the map and it looks nice and big, I think one of the biggest countries in the world. All our cities are kind of at the bottom. So we have pretty crappy cities between Vancouver to Toronto. They're small cities. They're not very attractive cities to live in. The climate itself in these cities are not as great. They tend to be fairly cold and dry, or horrible summers, and they're not that appealing when it comes to marketability of a city. Vancouver, when you look at Canada itself, there's basically three cities that are the most popular, three or four cities that would top the list. You have Toronto, Vancouver, then there's Montreal, I think, what comes in third, and then you have places like Ottawa, Calgary, Winnipeg, if you want to put them in there. But in general itself, they're not very appealing cities to live in. What you'll find is a lot of people that live in these other cities, places like Winnipeg, or even people from Toronto or Ottawa, they all tend to want to retire in Vancouver, or at least come to Vancouver at some point of their life. And that's because mostly of the weather. I mean, the weather here in Vancouver, although it's not the best when it comes to rain, and it does rain a lot here, it's not as cold. So we'll have fairly mild winters. We might get some snow, but in general, we'll get 3 weeks of snow at the most, and people will get excited to build a snowman and shovel some snow. But in general, we have very good climate when it comes to winter, at least the best in Canada, and that number one there makes it a very appealing city to be in. It's also a very picturesque city. It's a very cute city to live in. You have the mountains, you have water. I think one of the most amazing things is you're able to experience nature at its best. Anywhere you are within Vancouver, you are within 5 to 10 minutes of nature. You either are a large park, or you're 10 minutes away from the mountains, 15 minutes away from water or ocean. So you're able to really experience nature at its best, and not a lot of places in the world have that. Now, I have been, I've been lucky and fortunate enough to visit many places around the world, large cities like Paris, New York. I've been in London. I've been in several places in Europe, as well as had the opportunity to travel within North America. Just recently, I was in the States for a couple of weeks, and had the chance to visit a couple of cities there on the West Coast. So I was close to, I visited LA, but I also kind of went up to Utah, down again, obviously Vegas, and you have cities like, Portland, San Francisco. I was there, and as much as they're nice cities, they have pros, and they're good looking cities, very busy, tons of things to do in them. They don't appeal to me as a place to take my family and live when you've actually lived in Vancouver. Once you live in Vancouver, you kind of learn a bit more of balancing your work-life atmosphere. You're also able to enjoy a fairly easy lifestyle for kids, and I'm a family man. I have three children of my own that I take care of, and I walk them to school, and I know that I can pick them up after school, and we can either bike to the beach, or go for a run at the park, or take them to a park. And when I visit these other cities, even though they're nice and popular cities, and they're great, there's so much travel involved. There's so much commuting from one place to another. Tons of highways. And you gotta, it takes you a long time to go from point A to point B. When you live in Vancouver, at least Metro Vancouver, it's not that bad. It's actually very fairly commutable. As much as we complain about traffic and, not friendly sometimes when you're driving, distances are fairly short overall comparing it to everything else. So again, that livability is a huge factor. Now, right now we're about 2.5 million people in Vancouver. we're expected to get about another 50% by 20 years from now. So we're talking about 2040, 2039, we will have another 50% more people from that 2.5. So we're going to get a lot more people, and the city can't get any bigger. I mean, we are constrained by water, by mountains. We also have a lot of regulation when it comes to zoning. We have the downtown core, and then we have very small area of detached houses with some density that we're starting to build. But in general, we're really locked into what we can do. So we can't expand like other cities can expand. We're quite constrained, so we have to expand within what we already have. So whatever city we have right now, whatever places we have, we're either tearing down and building density, or we're building other houses and so forth. But there's not a lot of options in reference to growing on the outskirts of what Vancouver itself is. It's already been developed. It is what it is. We're just changing what we had to try to accommodate it. Now, Vancouver itself, for those people that haven't been here, does not have highways. So the transportation itself can be complicated once you get out of Vancouver. And within, we have a lot of transit, and you have to move around transit or other forms, and it's a lot easier to move around the city instead of trying to get onto tons of highways and being gridlocked. Unfortunately, some people do need to drive out, but in general, if you live within Vancouver up to before any of the bridges, you tend to be able to move around fairly easy on your normal commutes overall. Now let's talk about supply and demand. The biggest thing I think with Vancouver being such an expensive city is we don't have a lot of supply. So our supply is limited not just on the what you can buy as properties, but also on the rental side. We are limited to so many properties, and we have so many people. And like I said, once you live in Vancouver, many people don't move out, or even if you live in Vancouver and you want to make a change, because you've had it good here, a lot of people don't want to move out. Even people that are older and seniors, they don't want to move. I mean, you have a lot of people that will sell their houses, downsize. They still want to stay in Vancouver. They don't want to go out to nowhere. They want to be able to walk to restaurants, take transit, walk to the library. So even people with in that point of their life where they're supposed to be downsizing, if they downsize, they're downsizing to a smaller property within Vancouver, or they don't downsize at all because they like living in their homes, and they find options to either rent their home out or space, or they find they're sharing with their kids the property. So it's people are not moving out of Vancouver like the media wants to make you believe. You hear one story, a guy that couldn't make it, and I moved out of Vancouver, the best thing I ever did. But in reality, that's just one case. There's not most people. For every one guy that leaves, you got 5 that arrive, and most people want to stay, want to make it here. And unfortunately, you have to work, and it's an expensive city. But I think that the important part when you live in an expensive city like Vancouver is you have to be able to find solutions and see how you can make it work. And there's many ways to make it work. You just have to be creative. You have to talk to the right people to give you the right advice, and you'll find solutions. Now, supply being so limited, I think that one of the ways to improve on the affordability is to have more supply. Now, I know what you're going to think, here's another realtor, another broker just saying that supply is the problem. But it's not rocket science. Every market out there corrects itself having supply and demand, and not just the real estate market. I mean, you look at, you can look at manufacturing, you can look at, fruits and vegetables. It's all about supply and demand. If you have a lot of one thing, then the price has to come down so you can get rid of that product. If you have very little of something and everybody wants that, then prices increase. And that's what we have going on in Vancouver. There is very, very little because of those factors that we talked about. So prices do increase in reference to rental and in reference to purchasing a property in Vancouver. Now, unfortunately, when you see that there's 50% more people coming into the cities, so we're talking another 1.5 million to people coming in the next 20 years. I mean, if we don't build to accommodate these people, we're only going to put more strain on what we currently have, and that's going to generate even more affordability issues. So it's important that we allow smart densification within a city over the years. Now, right now, I can tell you that with the current government in place and their policies, we've stopped developing substantial amount of land and opportunity that we had, or people that were involved in building these units. And I'm talking about mid-class affordable units. That's that small developer that was building detached houses with 2 or 3 suites that would eventually come on the rental market. They've completely stopped. Why? Because it's a very risky investment, and there's no positive feeling in the market right now. You have 50% buyer's tax, you have a 1% empty homes buyer tax, you have a 2% speculation tax, you have a school tax on properties over $3 million. I mean, it's being taxed. Real estate is now being taxed out of the roof, where it really makes people think, should I invest in this? Should I commit my funds to building these properties with such a high risk? And you got to remember, these people are not building because they just like to build. It's a business. It's a business. Like, it might be a business for one of us to accept a job somewhere else. You're not going to take a job, or you're not going to invest in something that you feel there's a high risk of losing. You're going to get into something because you think it's going to be good for you. In this case, for these guys, it's an investment. It's an opportunity to make some money. And it has to be a win-win here. So if the developer is winning, and then you have a potential renter or potential purchaser that's getting a property, and it might come at a lower price point, because if there's other people also playing in that same game, they have to be competitive. So you remember, competition is key. Look at cell phone carriers. Why is it so cheap in the States to go get a cell phone, and it's crazy busy in Canada? Because there's no competition. There's no competition. So if there's no competition, then it gets priced really high. So again, there has to be supply in order to feed the demand. If we're able to feed the demand and feed it at a pace where there's a lot of options for people to go and choose, then prices are going to come down. If you had an option as a renter to go out there and pick 15 top quality properties, you don't think they're going to be competing for each other to have either a lower rent cost or a lower purchase price? Of course they're going to compete, because whoever has the better price and better product is going to win. I mean, sometimes here you have 20 properties for rent, or you can go up on Craigslist right now and pull up 35 properties just off the bat in a block. And I'll tell you, out of those 35 properties, maybe 2 are decent, or 3 are decent, and the rest is not that great. And those 2 that are really good, they're getting top dollar. But those other ones are also getting top dollar because there's nothing else to choose from. There could be 70 people looking for properties at one point in time in that same area. So we have to create the supply. And right now, I can tell you, there is no supply being built. Therefore, if there is no supply being built, we're going to have problems down the road. And right now, we're suppressing that construction. We're suppressing particularly that small builder that hasn't brought anything within the last year and a half, and they might not bring anything for another year or 2. So when that eventually, that spring of demand actually pops up again, that's where we're going to have problems, because we won't be able to fit that demand, and then we're going to have some more price increases. So we have to be smart. Unfortunately, right now, I think that's not happening. We have to incentivize these people that were used to building the product to be able to build more units. Now, people that had second homes, there's a big market of people that have second homes in Vancouver and major cities. It's normal. People have invested in a city they believe in. Now, these people are being told that they have to, they're being forced to rent or forced to do something with their property. And what's happening there, some might do it, so that you could say the policy is working, but others may not, and may not decide they want to do it. Now they're getting taxed for not doing that, and that's creating animosity between the government and owners. And I mean, the owners have been carrying the city with property transfer tax for so many years, and now they're getting screwed because they decided to invest into that property. So that's going to be a problem down the road. I know that there's some people that are starting a class action lawsuit towards the government, and we'll see how that goes. I think that the government, instead of trying to create this this fighting between owners and haves not. They should maybe create incentives to say, hey, listen, you have 2 properties, bring it on the market for rental, and we'll give you a tax incentive. You don't think that people would jump on opportunity if they're seeing there's a benefit towards doing that? And there has to be a benefit. Again, people think that we're supposed owners are supposed to give out their property. I mean, why? There has to be an incentive, either a tax incentive, some kind of incentive to bring this property on the market. There's so much risk. I mean, there are people paying millions of dollars for property. If for them to be just rent it out and just put it out there has to be an incentive. And I think that the government should be thinking in incentives and things to create, a nice playing field for everyone, not just for renters, but for current owners. And if we can get all of them happy, then we have a win-win situation. Now, right now, all we have is, a fight between the haves and haves not, and that's what the government and the media has portrayed it as a conflict between one and another. I think that we've always coexisted as landlords and renters, and there has to be a fair playing field for everyone. And as long as everything's fair, I think that we'll be able to create nicer communities, people living in nice spaces, being able to maybe renovate those suites to make it a better property. If we have a lot of demand out there, then rent prices will come down and everybody is happy. So those are my thoughts. What do you think? How can we make Vancouver more affordable in your opinion? Let me know, comment below, and I'm gonna go check out this conference, and I'll come back and let you know how it goes. But I don't think they're going to be talking about too many more different things than what we talked about. We need supply in order to make things more affordable, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, I'm Adan Sprauer. This is Real Estate Today. We'll see you next time.